We can easily title this section of St. Luke's Gospel as the lost and the found. The lost sheep, the lost coin, the lost son. As we reflect upon these parables of Jesus, it might be important for us to see and remember to whom Jesus is addressing the parables. St. Luke says that as he is teaching and preaching, tax collectors and others who were considered to be sinners were gathering around Jesus. And also gathering around Jesus were the scribes and the Pharisees, the righteous ones, the leaders of the people. And as they saw these tax collectors and other people they considered to be sinners gathering around Jesus, they began to complain and grumble. This man welcomes sinners and eats with them. And then Luke says, to them, Jesus addressed these parables, to the scribes and the Pharisees. And so from these parables, we have three lessons. Lesson number one. What man among you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, would not leave the 99 in the desert and go after the lost one? I'm sure none of the scribes and Pharisees raised their hand. Why bother with the lost one? We have 99. The one who wandered away, the one who got lost, the one who got hurt, that one is expendable. We can do without. But Jesus says, God does not operate that way. In God's mind, in God's love, no one is expendable. No matter if one wanders away, if one gets hurt, or if one is confused. All are important in the eyes of God. And so when one wanders, one gets lost, one gets hurt, God searches and seeks until he finds that one. And when he finds the one that's lost, he does not reprimand, he does not punish, he does not put down, but he rejoices. He celebrates because the one who was lost is now found. All are important in the eyes of God. Lesson number two. What woman among you, having 10 coins and losing one, would not light a lamp and sweep the entire house, searching carefully until she finds it? How much value is that coin worth? Well, the coin that's used in the scriptures is called a drachma. Its value, 19 cents. Who among us would search our entire house for 19 cents? I wouldn't. Of no value. So why did Jesus somehow use this parable to teach us a lesson? Well, we need to remember that back in the time of Jesus, it was the custom when a woman got married, she wore a special headdress. And in this headdress were sewn silver coins. So perhaps the coin that was lost was one of the ones that was in her headdress on the day of her wedding. Yes, it didn't have a lot of monetary value, only 19 cents, but it meant a lot to her in her heart. It was given to her on her special day, the day when she became a wife. And so the lesson that Jesus is teaching is that God comes to us not because we're perfect, not because we're holy, not because we have it all together. He searches and seeks us simply because we matter to him. We are worth something to him in a very special way because he has chosen us to be his sons and his daughters. We all have worth. We all have value in the eyes of God. Lesson number 3, the lost son. We all know that story. How that younger son couldn't wait until his father died before he got the inheritance. He wanted it now while he was young and healthy. And so he said, "Dad, give me what's deserving after you die. I want it now." And the father gave it to him. Half of all he had, he gave it to his younger son, who took it all and went away and led a wild and crazy life. Party, 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 until the money was over and out. And he was broke. He was destitute. Well, he finally got a job, if you want to call a job feeding the pigs a job, but that's what he got. And as he's there feeding the pigs, he just longed to have some of the food that they were eating, but no one offered to give him any. And finally he comes to his senses and says, "My father's hired hands have more than what I have. I'll go back and say, accept me not as your son, but as just one of your hired hands." And so he makes his way back home. Now, all the time this is happening, his father, every day after his son left, goes out and scans the horizon, looking and seeking and hoping he'll get a glimpse of his son. And one day he does. And when he sees his son coming back, he doesn't fold his arms and wait for his son to grovel at his feet. St. Luke says he runs to his son, he embraces his son, he kisses his son. He says to his servants, "Put the fine garments on and put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet." He didn't want to hear the excuse. He didn't want to hear all what the son did. He had his son back because he loved his son. And no matter what he did, how sinful a life he lived, his father loved him with mercy and grace. And the lesson that we have from this third parable is that there is no sin that you and I can ever commit, that will keep us from the love of God. God loves us no matter what. The parables that Jesus taught the scribes and the Pharisees says that everyone is important and no one is expendable. Everyone has worth because they're made in the image and likeness of God, and they are God's children. And nothing can ever keep us apart. No sin that we ever commit can keep us from the mercy and the grace of God our Father. At the very end of these parables, there's sort of a sad part of the story. That has to do with the elder son. The elder son who is mad and angry and resentful because his father took back the younger son and forgave him. I think that younger son symbolizes the scribes and the Pharisees to whom Jesus was addressing these parables. Because they were upset with Jesus because Jesus hung around the sinners, the marginalized, the ones that no one cared about. And the scribes and Pharisees didn't like that at all. They thought they and only they were deserving of God's love, mercy, and forgiveness. As we reflect upon these parables, I hope that you and I never take on the attitude of the elder son. That you and I never take on the attitude of the scribes and the Pharisees. That you and I never think that someone or some group of people are expendable, that we can do without them. That we never come to think or have an attitude that some people are not worthy of God's love. That we never think that some people, because of what they've done in their life, are not deserving of God's mercy and forgiveness. How can we keep from having this attitude like the scribes, the Pharisees, and that elder son? By taking time every day to remember the times when we were lost, the times when we didn't think that we were all worthwhile, the times that we sinned, and remember the time when God came to us with his love his mercy, and his forgiveness.